The Breeders' Cup Classic 2025 coming to Del Mar. We're less than a month away now, the first Saturday in November, and the Breeders' Cup Classic field starting to take shape. The final round of preps have been run. We're going to look back at the Woodward Stakes, the Lucas Classic at Churchill Downs, the Japan Prep for Forever Young, and the Goodwood Stakes, an 8-1 upset winner trained by Bob Baffert. But let's take a look. Starting off in Japan, the Nippon TV High, it was Forever Young picking up the win. This was his first race since running in the Dubai World Cup and getting upset by Hit Show in the spring. Now Forever Young had taken some time off, trained well, and he'll come into the Breeders' Cup Classic. Of course, last year he ran third in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and he gets his win in Japan as a prep race before coming over to Old Del Mar for the first Saturday in November. Meanwhile, the Breeders' Cup Challenge Series is over. The Goodwood Stakes was the final win of the event, and this year we had multiple winners. We had Journalism, Sierra Leone, Fierceness, Antiquarian, Forever Young. So it should be a pretty contentious Breeders' Cup Classic in 2025. Let's go back to the Goodwood Stakes, the final round of the Winnin' You're In for the Breeders' Cup Classic. It was Nevada Beach, an 8-1 shot. Full Serrano at 1-2. Of course, he won the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year. They come into the stretch. Full Serrano on the inside, digging in. And Nevada Beach getting the better of him from the outside. Rallies late, wins that race, defeats Full Serrano. Now, last time out, Nevada Beach had won the Los Al Derby, and Nevada Beach had passed on a couple of races, wins the Goodwood Stakes. He's lightly raced, could be getting better. Speed figure came back a good number. Nevada Beach will be part of that 3-year-old group trying to take on the older horses in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Now, the Classic contender rankings are out. Sovereignty still heads the group. Of course, he's got 4 straight wins, including the Kentucky Derby. You've got the Belmont Stakes, the Jim Dandy, and the Travers Stake. 3 of those races, grade 1s. Fierceness ranked number 2. He won the Pacific Classic. Then we've got Sierra Leone, the Breeders' Cup Classic winner last year. Mindframe, Journalism, the Preakness winner, and Forever Young, the winner in Japan, run in the Dubai World Cup, and of course last year second in the Kentucky Derby, third in the Breeders' Cup Classic. So the top ranked horses all pointing for that Breeders' Cup Classic. Meanwhile, let's go to the New York final prep. Locked in a small field. Phileas Fogg leads him into the stretch. Locked kind of stayed on the inside, saved some ground, outran post time late, and then gets up after checking and getting clear of Phileas Fogg. You know, Locked had won the prep race at Santa Anita earlier this year, then kind of faltered in a couple of starts. If he goes back to that Santa Anita victory, he could be a factor in the Classic, maybe at double-digit odds, but Locked, winning the Woodward Stakes for trainer Todd Pletcher. He could still have as many as 4 horses in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Now, Mystic Dan won the Lucas Classic. Wide open scramble at the top of the stretch. You've got near the rail, it was Mystic Dan, familiar scene at Churchill Downs. Of course, last year he saved ground, won at the rail, won the Kentucky Derby. This time around, they all kind of fan out, and saving ground at the rail was Mystic Dan. Checks, goes inside, wins in the final stride. Now, Mystic Dan still thinking about the Dirt Mile, could be running in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think they want to wait and see if there's any defections first, because Mystic Dan showing his better form this year, more at a mile to a mile and 16th, and maybe not ready for a mile and a quarter in a full field at Del Mar, but Mystic Dan back in the winner's circle. Sovereignty, of course, he worked in the fog. Look at him emerge out of the fog here over the weekend in New York. He's training well. Everything is all systems go for Sovereignty to run in the Breeders' Cup Classic. A little bit of time off after that Travers win for trainer Bill Mott. Now, Journalism worked 5 furlongs on Friday. Looks like he's still considering the Classic. There was some chatter about the Dirt Mile, but Journalism fits with these. The 3-year-old's a good crop. Baeza, Journalism, and Sovereignty, all capable of running well in the Breeders' Cup Classic this year. And Journalism may be the longest price of any of those 3-year-olds and may go up to double-digit odds. Of course, he won the Haskell earlier this year. Now, Sierra Leone trying to make it 2 in a row, the only horse to win Breeders' Cup Classic back-to-back years. That was Tisnow winning it for America. and Samantha Decker posted this photo on Friday. Sierra Leone working with Chancellor McPatrick, 4 furlongs in 48 and 88. Of course, Sierra Leone won the Whitney. He likes a fast pace. Couldn't get up in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Kind of a difficult race, though, after all that trouble at the beginning of the race with White Abarrio and the jockey losing his rider, horse losing his jockey. So Sierra Leone on track for trainer Chad Brown. Of course, he ran well last year, winning that Breeders' Cup Classic. Now, Fierceness, he won the Pacific Classic. He ducked in at the start, led him into the stretch, won that race, and Fierceness defeated Journalism that day. Of course, he's the older contingency, along with Mindframe. Mindframe winning that Stephen Foster. He had trouble in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. He's going to try to get back on form. He's going to be training up to that Breeders' Cup Classic for trainer Todd Pletcher. And Todd Pletcher, besides Fierceness and Mindframe, he also could have Antiquarian and locked. Antiquarian definitely pointing for the Breeders' Cup Classic. He ran a good race against Phileas Fogg in the Suburban, ran a tough race at Churchill Downs this spring. Antiquarian fits, and I think he's one of the few horses that really likes that 10 furlong distance. Now, the Classic field starting to shape up. Could have as many as 12 horses. We've got Forever Young, the Japan winner. Of course, Sovereignty, Fierceness, Journalism, Baeza. Of course, 3 of those 4 are 3-year-olds. Fierceness last year ran in the Kentucky Derby, ran off the board, but he did win the Florida Derby and ran second in the Breeders' Cup Classic to Sierra Leone. Now, Mindframe pointing, Mystic Dan, still a decision to be made if he's going to run in the Dirt Mile or the Breeders' Cup Classic. Antiquarian going. We've got Nevada Beach for Bob Baffert. He could have a couple still locked. And then Highland Falls, of course, ran an allowance race, won that, ran a big race in the second race of the year, off the board last time out. But he's another one that ran in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year for Godolphin Blue and trainer Brad Cox. He does well with long layoffs. He is going to be training up to the Breeders' Cup Classic as well. As that field of 11 or 12 starts to shape up, we may even get a turf horse from Europe to ship over and try to run on the dirt. There's been some scuttlebutt about that. Meanwhile, Full Serrano, after losing to Goodwood, he's pretty much going to point to that Dirt Mile. He won the Dirt Mile last year, kind of a little bit of a price. Then we've got White Abarrio, the Breeders' Cup Classic winner a couple of years ago. He's going to point to the Dirt Mile. He had trouble in that Jockey Club Gold Cup. White Abarrio going to cut back to that mile for the Breeders' Cup this year. Of course, the Classic division, by your speed figures, Sovereignty with the top 2. But then right after that, you've got Sierra Leone, Antiquarian, Journalism, Fierceness, Mindframe, Baeza, all within a couple of points on that buyer scale. We'll be taking a little bit deeper look at the speed figures as we get closer in the next few weeks. But a Classic division shaping up. Sovereignty working over the weekend, Sierra Leone, and we also have got the final round of prep winners. Who are you starting to like in the Breeders' Cup Classic? Share this video with a horse racing friend and fan. And remember, Breeders' Cup prospectus comes out, stats and information for the Breeders' Cup. Sign up below in the description and you'll be notified first when it comes out, Breeders' Cup week. D. Wayne Lucas always used to say, people have opinions, horses have the facts.